and we will jump right in. So let me introduce myself for those of you who may not know who I am. I am Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, and what I do is I help people cultivate a healthy relationship with their money and their finances. So I wanted to come on here and do a short live simply because I've been a part of a few discussions, serving as a panelist, serving as a speaker, doing different things in different groups. And a topic of discussion came up on more than one occasion. And I thought it would be fair just to kind of open up and share my story in terms of how I shifted from being a person with insecurities, to say the least, and then how that insecurity led to the debt that I was in, and I ended up having insecure finances. So I want to just reiterate my story and let you know that for me, growing up in my household, debt was normal. This was something that we literally used to survive, and that is what I was taught to do. So I'm born and raised from Washington, D.C., to a single parent who raised myself and my brother. And she did the best that she could, and she taught us the best that she knew how based on what she knew and what she experienced growing up. So a lot of my financial decision making growing up stemmed from what I saw and basically repeating the habits that I seen my mom carry out. So debt was a normal thing. You know, when I went to college, my mom was like, listen, you have to fund your own way through school. So if you don't have enough money in grants, or if you don't have enough money in Pell Grants and financial aid and work study, then the loans that you have to take out, you will have to take those out and be responsible for that on your own. And which was fine for me because I thought that that was just a way of life. I thought, you know, typical American society is you go to school, you get a good job, and you pay for your loans when you get out of school. So that was normal for me. And not only that, surviving off of credit cards, using credit cards to get what I want, not necessarily what I needed, but to get what I want, and just feeling like that was just the norm for everyday life. Another thing that wasn't discussed in our household is saving. We never really talked about saving, and I'm just going to drink some tea because my voice is getting a little bit raspy, and I want to make sure that I preserve my voice. So I'm going to drink some tea while I'm doing this live, so don't mind me. But saving was not an enforced discussion. It wasn't something that we talked about. It wasn't enforced. And I shared this story before my personal page on how I accumulated so much debt in the first place, and how my mind was to just spend, spend, spend. And that's exactly what I did. I did not save any money at all, any money at all. So I was literally living check to check. And one thing that I want to share with you guys is the statistic that 70%, maybe probably even more than 70, close to 80% of American households are living check to check right now, like right now in this day and age. And when we hear that statistic, that just goes to show that people are going to work and they are relying on their next paycheck in order for them to survive. So essentially that means that a reserve is not in place, meaning that they don't have a savings, they don't have a cushion, they don't have anything to fall back on. So that in the event if their main source of income were to be eliminated, they will be seriously stressed and not knowing how they're going to survive. That's that check to check life, like literally not having enough to have anything to carry over to be able to build a sufficient cushion for yourself. But that's one of the things that I didn't realize was important growing up, because I always had the notion in my mind, like, okay, I'm going to work and I'll get another check. I'm going to work and I'm going to get another check. Like, my process was, you don't have to save anything. Just spend your money, more will come. Spend your money, more will come. And that's not healthy now that I'm seeing that now. Another thing was for me growing up, as I got older, I'll say the least, at least in my 18s, around 18 in my early 20s, I had a responsibility at a very early age, a heavy responsibility more than most. So I became a caregiver for my mom, and I was doing this for a very long time, very long time. I've been my mom's financial provider. I've been her emotional provider. I've been literally almost everything to her. And that can carry a heavy burden when you are responsible for someone's well-being financially. And I had that responsibility at an early age, and it was very, very, very overwhelming. So when you think about a young Black woman who is responsible financially for a parent at such an early age, and just thinking about all of the unhealthy habits that I picked up around finances, and not only that, thinking about all of the things that were said to me by my family members or by people, peers in school and, school age, and just being said or being said different things. Those words carry so much weight, and they really can have an impact on you. So for me, that led me to have some insecurities within myself, meaning I would inherit the negative things that people would say about me, or the things that weren't so positive or weren't so well, that I took that to be true in a sense. And that created self-doubt, that created lack of self-worth within me, and that generated a lot of insecurities within myself. So what did that cause me to do? What did that cause me to do? That caused me to then in turn try to get people to love me, and get people to want me around, get people to appreciate me, get people to want to say good things about me because of the insecurities that I had within myself. And during that process, that led me to spend in an insecure state as well. So this is the main reason why this live is called The Shift from Insecure Self and Insecure Finances, because that is exactly where I was. I was insecure about myself. I was insecure about my state of being. I was insecure about a lot of things growing up. And that led to me having a unhealthy relationship with my money. And not only that, an emotional, dysfunctional relationship with money. So that looked like me buying things not only for myself so I could feel good on the inside, but also buying things for others so that they could then in turn appreciate me and love me and want me around and those things. So, and I didn't realize this up until actually when I started my debt freedom journey. I didn't realize that that was the case, because I'm a natural giver. I'll say that I'm a natural giver at heart, but I realized that I would use my resources, and not even if I necessarily had those resources, but using that plastic credit card to buy things for people. I remember one Christmas, I spent $5,000 on gifts for like everybody and their mama. It was crazy now that I think about how much money I spent on Christmas gifts, just to put a smile on someone else's face, because I didn't have a smile on the inside of me. Talk about a revelation, you guys. So that was a pivotal revelation for me, just to really understand and get a grips of the reason why I was spending and charging in the capacity that I was spending and charging. So a lot of times we forget to make that connection and that correlation about why we spend the way we spend. And it's important to do that, because it will allow you to see a whole lot about yourself. I'm telling you, this debt freedom journey for me has allowed me to learn a lot about myself and a lot about my past, a lot about how far I've come and how far I've grown over time. So me going into this journey to pay off my debt, I thought it was just going to allow me to, become debt free and have financial relief and not have stress. But it's actually turned into more of that. It's turned into a process that is allowing me to turn my inside to a whole new level in terms of my self-worth, my level of security, my self-esteem, all kinds of things. It's like really literally catapulting into something major that I never thought would be possible. So just wanted to share, how did I make that switch? Like, when did that switch happen? This was a question that a lot of folks asked me recently on some of the speaking engagements and working groups that I was a part of. They asked me this question, like, how did you know, like, what made you switch? Like, what made you transition? What was that one thing? And I shared this story before, but I'm going to reiterate it again. I was going through my New Year's resolutions or in the process of creating New Year's resolutions for the year of 2016. It was the ending of 2015, December 2015. And I was going through the process of creating my New Year's resolutions. Like, what did I want to see from my life? What did I want? I was just thinking of all of these different aspects. And I touched on the financial piece. So when I got to the financial piece, what I did was I said, well, let me compare, my bank statement to my year-to-date pay stub. And when I did that comparison, you guys, and I saw how much money I earned from my pay stubs at the ending of that year and compared that to my bank balance, when I saw that the comparison between the two was like nowhere near each other, that was the pivotal moment of change for me, when I realized, wow, I am working so hard day in and day out, and I do not have a dime to numerically show for all of the hard work that I've done over this past 12 months to be reflected in my bank account. You guys, that hit me so hard, and that allowed me to tell myself, like, wait a minute, like, this cannot be life. This cannot be a situation in a place where we go to work day in and day out and we have nothing to show for it. That's literally how I felt. I felt as though I worked so hard and didn't have nothing to show for it. And that's when I said that I am going to do something different, and I'm going to change the trajectory of my financial situation. And what that meant was, I knew that I needed to do one thing and one thing only. And that was get out of debt, because I realized that all of my money was going to paying bills and paying debt. And yes, I'm a caregiver. I was a caregiver for my mom, so I was paying a lot of her bills. But the bulk of my money was going to my personal debt. I tell you guys, I had student loans, I had a car loan, I had personal loans, I had 3 credit cards. My credit card balances were like $40,000. I was in 6 figures of debt, 6 figures of debt. And when I compared my bank statement to my year-to-date pay stub, that is what was eye-opening for me, because I started to analyze, like, where did all my money go? Like, what have I done? And I realized that I've been making debt payments all my life, making debt payments. And I knew that needed to change for me. So one thing I also wanted to point out, like I reiterated earlier in this live, is that, we aren't taught how to properly manage our money in our households growing up. I can't remember any conversations that I really had where my mom actually sat me down and said, okay, look, Sophie, you need to start saving. You need to, plan. You need to, build a reserve. You need to figure out not to pay interest. These types of conversations were not held. They were not held at all. I was told to work. You better believe I was told to work because I had to help out and I had to do things. And if I wanted what I wanted because my mom couldn't afford it, then I had to get a job and buy whatever it is that I wanted or whatever I needed. And so that I was told, but I wasn't told how to effectively manage the money and how to allow it to work for me. So one thing that I want to share with you all is that we have to put ourselves in a position where we can effectively manage our money and not just realize that we earn money to spend it, because money is a tool. And this is one thing that I write out in my new money story every day. I tell myself that money is a tool and it is something that I use responsibly. And that's one thing that we need to start having with conversations in our households, with our children and our family members, that money is a tool that we need to use responsibly. And that means that we need to start having healthy conversations around our money. And because I know from a fact, me not being taught how to effectively manage money, and also other people who I've been speaking to in groups and speaking presentations, there's so many people that come up to me and tell me, I was not taught this. I was not taught how to manage my money. I was not taught how to grow my money. I was not taught how to save. I was not taught how to effectively, decide what is a good return on investment on what I'm purchasing. These conversations did not happen in many households across America, which is why 70 to 80% of us are living check to check, because we don't know how to manage our resources and we don't know how to grow it. And I'm going to tell it to you straight like this. Even six-figure income earners don't know how to manage their money. So this is one thing that I always tell people as well. More money will not solve your money issues. Habit transformation will. So many times we think that, oh, I just need more money. I'll be able to manage if I have more money. No, at the end of the day, you need to figure out how to manage what you currently have. Because when you manage what you currently have, it'll build the habit transformation and the discipline for you to be able to handle more. So that's just one thing that I wanted to share with you guys, how we need to start having these healthy conversations. And that was the shift for me, to go from being an insecure person, seeing how that stimulated my insecure finances, and then getting to a point where I was in six figures of debt before the age of 30, and not realizing until a few years later that this was not the proper way of life, and that I wanted freedom, and that I wanted to live, and that I wanted to experience the best and all of what God has for me. That is what caused me to shift from that state of being. Now I'm in a place where I am extremely, extremely happy. Like I am able to manage what I currently have. I'm able to manage what I have, and I'm able to stretch it. And I thank the Lord for all of the abilities and everything that He has allowed me to do with the resources that I have. But I just want to share that it's important that we learn how to maintain our resources and sustain our resources, because a lot of households, we are not taught that. We are not taught how to build and sustain a reserve. I can count on I can count how many people really have a reserve that's able to cover an emergency that's more than $500. Honestly, it's probably less than 10%. Let's be real. And I can get the statistics and really confirm that, but the number is low. So I just wanted to do a quick live to tell you my story and be truthful about my story and where I stood and where I stand and how my insecurities led to my insecure financial decision making and how I shifted out of that process. So one of the things that I plan to do is I like having these conversations, and I like letting people know that my life isn't perfect. My process wasn't perfect. I haven't always been here. I'm still working my way and I'm changing my way and I'm helping people in the process. So I think it's healthy to start having these conversations so people can know that if I can do it, you can do it too. And then not only that, to bring awareness so people can start to do something different when it comes to their personal finances. So next week, I plan to come back and do the same thing and just have a healthy discussion with you guys on personal finances and share my truths, share my thoughts, share what I feel are some pain points that we need to address outside of what we have already covered today. But I want to encourage you all to do something for you and your finances. And if that means expanding your horizon, meaning learning something new about your finances, learning something that you don't already know, listen to a podcast, listen to read a book, find something that you can do to elevate your financial mindset, because that's where it starts. It starts in the mind. We have to have the mental capacity and the mental capability to shift from this debt cycle, right? And these unhealthy patterns that we've kind of picked up during our lives. You have to think about it. We've been raised by someone else for more than 18 years. Most of us have been raised by someone else for more than 18 years. So that's 18 years of habits that we have to now retrain, especially if we weren't taught the right things. So I want to encourage you to learn something new about finances. Think about where you want to be, what you want to know, and study that for a second and share it. I will be happy to know what you guys come up with, what you want to expand your financial horizon on, what you decided that you want to learn. I challenge you to do that. And in addition, I challenge you to come back next week and join in with me as we have this healthy conversation, because I'm all about cultivating a healthy relationship with your finances, and that starts with having a dialogue about it. All right. So I'm not going to keep you long. It's been about 24, almost 25 minutes. And I just want to thank you for joining. And again, your assignment and challenge is to learn something new about your finances. Share what you want to uncover and what you plan to research. And if you have any revelations that you'd like to share for the greater good for everyone else, feel free to drop it in this live. So thank you for tuning in tonight. And I will see you all next week when I come back and talk to you guys some more about it. So have a wonderful, wonderful night. And as always, remember, your financial prosperity awaits you. Good night, you all.